Can't get enough of Kelly and Ramya?
We're now on YouTube for you to indulge in highlights from our show.
Ooh, Leslie, there's so much going on out there in our world with, long weekends around, going back to school, work from home. There's just so much stuff out there these days that, we only can be certain of uncertainty, right? And uncertainty can also carry a lot of stress. Mental health takes a toll on it.
100%. And I love this time of year. I mean, I'm a sweater season kind of a gal anyway, but I love this time of year because October also means it is World Mental Health Day. It's officially recognized on the 10th of October. So we're only off by not even 24 hours. I feel very good about our timing this year. And the overall objective of Mental Health Awareness Day is really just to raise awareness around mental health and mobilize efforts that's globally in support of mental health. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. We're going to try and fight the stigma in this segment here today together. And it is certainly nothing that we need to be ashamed of talking about. And while we could delve into the corners of diagnostics and mental illnesses and medications and treatment options, this is a 15-minute segment, so I'm going to pace myself. So I thought a good place for us to start our conversation this week is into online mental health, something that we're seeing a lot of these days, the glorification of the grind, and why we really need to reframe what success is.
Well, I think, Leslie, as usual, we better start with our definition here. Should we start with a good definition here?
Absolutely. And as you know, I do love a good definition. So mental health. Okay. Mental health is a state of well-being, and we all have it. Okay. 1 in 5 people in Canada might experience mental illness, but 5 out of 5 Canadians have mental health. Okay. This is a universal thing. This is not anything to be ashamed of. Maybe we just don't have the language to talk about it. Maybe it's something we're not comfortable talking about in certain social circles or in certain groups of people, but that does not mean it's not here, and it doesn't mean it's not worth talking about. So hopefully today we're going to start to kind of peel back the layers of this onion. And it really is, it's a state of thriving, of not just surviving. Mental health is about enjoying life, about having a sense of purpose, and being able to manage life's highs and lows. And that's a huge piece of it as well. I think, we could probably do an entire segment on this. The idea that, there's somebody else out there who's got this whole thing figured out and they're happy all the time. And the fact that you're not happy all the time is obviously some sort of a defect with you that needs addressing. And that's simply not true. And I think that's a huge part of where we're struggling right now with mental health, is this idea that somebody else has either sorted it out, or that we are inherently supposed to be at a 10 out of 10 happiness all the time, 24/7, 365 days a year. And the truth is, it's impossible, number one. And philosophically, how would you know what happiness was if you didn't have the opposite of it from time to time? So it's also, like I said, mental health is really about managing those highs and lows, expecting them to come, embracing them as best we do, having coping strategies in place to address them, and hopefully a good social network around us when those times come.
Yeah, and keeping our realities checked, with this social media and with all these other places where there's a lot of that falsity, and we get into real spirals just looking at other people and thinking that we're not where they are. What does good mental health look like? You touched on a lot already, Leslie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to go through World Mental Health Day kind of breaks things down for us in a really palatable way. So I want to walk through sort of the literature they've put out there, because I think it's, obviously it's backed, it's scientific, it's data. We have reams of data on this, so I want to stick to that. But I want to acknowledge what you said too, Ramya, about sort of and we'll talk about that more hopefully throughout the segment today, but sort of the role that social media is playing in that, and this endless state of comparison that we all seem to be in. So when we talk about really good mental health, what does that include? It includes a sense of purpose, strong relationships. This is such a huge one. And I don't know if anyone's watching. There's a documentary right now on Netflix. There's a gentleman who works for National Geographic who travels around the world to something called blue zones, places in the world where people live longest and continually report having the best or the highest quality of life. And an overwhelming theme there is strong relationships. It's the way they've built their communities. And part of those relationships inherently give purpose and meaning to the individual community members. So those are our first two: strong sense of purpose, strong relationships. Number three is feeling connected to other people, remembering that we're not alone. Human beings are just, we are pack animals. We're meant to be in groups. We are meant to be connected to one another. Number four is having a good sense of self. So that's actually how you feel about your own self in your own skin each day. Number five is about how we cope with stress. And the number six sounds simplistic enough, but it's enjoying life. So, achieving and maintaining good health, good mental health is not a one-person journey. In fact, each setting, each situation you're in, each person that you interact in, all can impact our mental health and our well-being. And we know that. We know that everybody just came off of a long weekend with a lot of family members. And for lots of people, that's a super joyous time, and we feel super connected, and we feel like we are absolutely in our purpose and our element. And for some folks, family relationships are really complicated, and it's not always that perfect sense of purpose that comes with that. And those different settings, those different interactions, those patterns we fall into and with other people can have a really dramatic impact on us. So that really means to truly achieve good mental health for all, it has to be a common theme everywhere. So it's a bigger mandate, really, more than what we can do just on our own. But if we work together, hopefully we can achieve more. That means making this a priority in workplaces, in schools, in neighborhoods, in order that we all have this running through the veins of our communities.
It makes you really think, because you talk about how complicated so many different avenues of our lives can be, even if it's simply just getting a dinner ready or having that many people over family-wise. But you mentioned the glorification of the grind. What does that mean, and how does that impact our mental health?
I blame social media. I don't totally. I mean, I think I blame social media for the fact that we all seem to know what everybody else is doing every second of their lives. But the glorification of the grind has been around for a long time. This is hustle
Yes.
culture is another way we talk about it, right? It's all rooted in competition. This is the person who works 80 hours a week, but then they somehow do 90 minutes on their Peloton 4 times a day. And also their hair is perfect. And also all the kids' birthday presents look like they were wrapped on Pinterest. It's sort of people trying to outperform another person. And it's usually in the name of self-improvement. That's normally, it comes under this kind of guise. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't want to work on bettering yourself. It's not that, but there is a difference. And we know there's a difference, because when you interact with it, you get a feeling. You don't feel settled. It doesn't feel good to you. It feels like a poke. It feels like you're being egged on into something, and it makes you not feel good about yourself. And that is where the problem lies. The thing about this sort of hustle grind culture is it's almost impossible to maintain long term. Burnout is very real. Exhaustion is very real. And when we can't maintain the pace, we tend to crash. So we sort of ride the wave of the highs, but then we suffer the pains of the low. And worst of all, it's going to make us, this is all according to a bunch of made up rules that we've given ourselves. I mean, the second part of this, of course, is also often leads to the very opposite result that you set out to achieve in the first place. In other words, because you become so burnt out, it actually leads to poor performance and exhaustion as the reality of all of it sets in.
Yeah, there's so much to what you're saying, Leslie. It rings true. There's especially the riding the highs and kind of avoiding the lows, and then that sudden wall that you hit, right? Like, and even if you're not doing the 500 things you mentioned, even if it's just a couple elements in your life that you're just grinding and grinding and grinding away at, out of comparison, out of thinking like, this is what I need to do in order to be, the best me, or whatever these, buzzwords that are out there. The $1,000,000 question, though, how do we get away from this? Because it's everywhere. Everywhere we turn, we have someone to compare it to.
You're totally right. And you're right, too. It's not even about the list of how many things was on your amazing list of reasons I'm amazing. Like, it doesn't matter if you could have been doing 2 things all day and grinding away at that. But it's the mentality that you put yourself into, right? It's that constant state of comparison, and it's that constant push, not because the push brings you joy, brings you those inherent things we talked about that are part of our mental health. It's because you're pursuing something outside of that. And so my first answer really to how do we get away from this unfollow people. Unfollow anybody that doesn't make you feel good about yourself. And I know that sounds like the most obvious statement in the world, but my gosh, it's hard. You've probably collected some things that you follow along the way where, it started after that New Year's, you were going to do 1,000 sit-ups every day for a year, but now that person's still there. And every day you see them, you're sort of mildly annoyed by them and you say not nice things in your head, but you still follow and you still like and you still look at it again. There are lots of those things all over the place. It doesn't have to be just, exercise. There's lots of things that trigger us in that certain way, and we need to cut it off. It's not necessary. We need to start being very mindful about what it means when we are scrolling mindlessly on social medias. And when you get that pang in your stomach, when you slip into the, oh gosh, I wish that was me. Oh, look at them. See, this is why I knew I was bad at this. This is why I'm not good enough for that. Immediately unfollow, unfollow, unfollow. And the next thing I'm going to encourage you to do, which I think is just a great activity, if you're going to be active on social media, is start following people that are different than you, people that have different bodies, people that are from different cultures, different ways of being. I mean, first of all, it's a really great way to learn and to connect and to get out of your own head. But second of all, it helps us to really reframe our own judgments. I mean, the truth is a lot of the time when we're playing the comparison game, we're playing it according to our own rule book. There is somebody halfway around the world that doesn't even know your book exists. What's their life like? And it's important to remember that there's a whole other world besides the one that is kind of small and confined and constructed. And it's ironic because I know in a lot of ways social media lets us feel so globally connected to one another, and there's a beauty in that. And in another way, it actually gets us even smaller because we've created the world we look at. We picked the people to follow. You got it. And the system is rigged to do it at the same time. You're absolutely right. And so kind of creating some baby steps where you take a bit more ownership over that, where you can cultivate what that looks like, what your little world looks like, can have some really dramatic effects.
Yeah, we tend to stick to that, right? We because it's, again, that's what we feel is safe. Where stepping out, that's the best way to go. That's another word that gets tossed all over the place. Is it weird that not everybody knows what this stuff means? Some of it.
Mindfulness.
You know what?
Yeah.
I know. And it's funny too, because I think it's been co-opted to a certain extent to sell a lot of magazines and have us once again feel bad about ourselves, right? You're not mindful enough. Look at you. You're so mindful. You thought of being mindful, but you didn't do enough mindfulness. Therefore, your mindfulness is not as good as my mindfulness. We can always find a way that we're comparing to each other. And the truth is that's not what any of that was ever meant to be, right? So if we can find a way to try and filter out some of that excess noise for ourselves and to really focus down, I've got some links for you guys on the website as well. Have a look. There's some really incredible breathing exercise that I know seems very maybe out there and a little bit harder to get on board with to start. Even if you can carve out 5 minutes a day to just be quiet with yourself and to kind of come back to yourself, the data that supports this in terms of what that does for your long-term mental health is staggering. And it seems so small and insignificant that we often don't do it. We'll sooner go and buy the Peloton than we will take 5 minutes to sit alone and just take 5 deep breaths.
Or
And it's an interesting thing that we
make
do,
us
right?
laugh or whatever, instead of
distractions.
just breathe and feel.
And feel and just be and recognize that just being is enough. That's where all of this needs to start.
Yeah, do you want to do a bit of a breathing exercise with us, Leslie?
I mean, if we have time for it, I didn't want to push you guys. I don't want to run your day around.
Let's do it.
But okay, all right, then let's do this together. Okay, this is going to be a good little introduction. It will be 30 seconds tops, okay? In fact, a little bit shorter than that so that we can all we're going to just tip our toes in the water today, okay?
Okay.
So if you're comfortable with it, you're going to close your eyes. You don't have to. Okay, you're going to put one hand just above where your belly button is. Okay, you're going to start by taking a nice big breath in, and you're going to use that air to push your hand outwards, okay? So big breath in. Feel your hand go out and now back out. So next we're going to take a breath in for 4 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Out for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now we're going to go in for 4, 4, 3, 2. Hold for 4, 3, 2. Exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. One more time. In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. One more big breath in and all the way back out. Make some noise if it makes you happy. You can open your eyes if you want, if they were closed. It's
I screwed up my
simple.
hold anyway at one there, but it does. It makes
There's no
an
way
incredible
you can't
difference.
screw it up,
Much more
Kelly. You've already
relaxed.
nailed it.
Oh, that's
But it's just,
it's
you know,
a beautiful
it's those
way.
it's a quick little minute just to remind you of where you are, who you are, and drop back into your body for a little bit. So hopefully a good start for some mindful practices moving forward.
Yeah,
And the
I just love-
4-4-4-4 is box breathing, right? I think that's what you can look up
That's
if you
right.
want some guided breathing. Okay.
I just love
Absolutely.
the fact that the 5 minutes that you just clear your head, and we talk about it all the time. We know to do it, and it's so minor. You're sitting around, you're just standing, just do it. Thanks, Leslie.
Thanks so much, guys.
Registered nurse Leslie DePoe joins us on the second Wednesday of the month. We do a health check-in. Always fantastic stuff with her.
Thanks for watching.
You can catch Kelly and Ramya weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern on AMI.